So here we have a double feature. We're going to be taking a closer look at two releases by the brand Orientica. Both of these fragrances happen to be from the Le Motif collection. They are called Wild Neroli and Imperial Gold. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on these fragrances and also let you know what fragrances they remind me of, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review, this double feature of two fragrances by the brand Orientica, and I tell you all about these fragrances, the smell, the longevity, the notes, the performance, the vibe that they give across, so on and so forth. I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Make sure to hit that bell icon so you could be notified every time I do publish future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's episode. Now, both of these arrived at the same time, and the one thing that I can say about them is they're both perfect for the summertime. Of course, with a name like Wild Neroli, neroli is a citrus ingredient. It's very bright and vivid and enthusiastic. And of course, it smells very fresh and clean, and citrus fragrances really dominate in the hotter weather. And this fragrance also reminds me of a fragrance I have in my collection that I truly love wearing in the summertime. At some videos, I actually mentioned that it was one of my favorite summer releases. And so both of these fragrances remind me of two other really popular designer and niche fragrances respectively. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the smell and also let you know which ones they remind me of, but let's take a quick look at the presentation. Now, as we go on into this video, I do want to start things off with Wild Neroli. So again, they're both from the Le Motif collection. And Wild Neroli, as the namesake of the fragrance implies or suggests, this is going to be a neroli dominant fragrance. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of neroli from this fragrance. Now, this fragrance kind of reminds me of Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. Now, there have been several other neroli based fragrances like Neroli Canvas by Al Haramain, if I'm remembering that correctly. So the note of neroli has been done in many different iterations or interpretations. If you had to compare this to any other neroli based fragrance on the market, the closest comparison would be Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. However, this fragrance, while it still has that very bright and juicy neroli in the opening, which is unquestionably fresh, there's actually something denser residing in the base, this sort of woodsy quality that binds everything together and adds some sustenance to the composition. So, thinking back and reflecting on Neroli Portofino, it's actually much brighter than this fragrance. This fragrance is probably going to give you better longevity. And so if you're concerned not just about the smell of the fragrance, but you want something to last longer, I think you found yourselves a hit with Wild Neroli. The only difference being that I do think Neroli Portofino is a little bit brighter, and there's probably more of a touch on the citrus, more of effervescence or an effervescent quality, if you will. This has a little bit of like a woodsy base and something to really ground the fragrance, thus lending the composition a few hours of longevity over the original, which presumably this one is inspired by. But all in all, if you're looking for a neroli-based fragrance, you want something that's long-lasting, and the freshness actually lasted quite a bit. And so I'm very impressed with the quality of this fragrance. It smells natural. The neroli that is found in this fragrance is loud and clear, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, the next fragrance is called Imperial Gold, and all it took was Imperial in the name of the fragrance, and I registered the inspiration, if you will, immediately, and I made that connection right away. So this fragrance reminds me so much of Millésime Imperial by Creed. Not to mention that they both have Imperial in the name, and they're both found in a gold bottle. And then, of course, with this one, Neroli Portofino is found in a blue bottle as well. Not the same shade of blue, but you can tell that thematically there is a similarity. And with this one, Imperial Gold, yep, this is definitely a twist. I'm not gonna say a clone, but it's a twist of Millésime Imperial. You can tell it's not 100% the same thing, but that bright, citrusy, slightly fruity, ambergris freshness that you're gonna find in Creed's Millésime Imperial is also really, really present in this fragrance. So it opens up very bright, very citrusy, very alluring, and then it dries down to something that's equally fresh and a little bit on the oceanic side of things. And I think it's that ambergris quality that's really coming out in the fragrance that keeps it smelling oceanic, keeps it smelling fresh, even when the citrus is done working its magic in the top. Because of course you think of citrus, you're talking about ingredients that are going to shine in the opening of the fragrance and not necessarily do a whole lot of magic after an hour or 2 hours. Then it's really the heart notes and the base notes that come into play. So this is their version of Millésime Imperial by Creed, and they did a very good job. One thing that I always use to sort of gauge the quality of a fragrance is how much does it remind me of the original in terms of being able to activate memories that I've made with the original. And there are a lot of times in the case of some clones where I'll smell an Aventus inspiration, for example, and automatically it reminds me of the original Creed Aventus. It brings back the same memories of times when I would wear the original Creed Aventus, and this is doing the same thing. Several years ago, my family and I went to Key West, Florida. I brought my bottle of Millésime Imperial with me. I wore that thing, you know, damn near every day. And what I can say is that this fragrance certainly activated the same memories for me. Just being in Key West, vacationing, enjoying the summertime, and smelling amazingly fresh in the process. So this one is very well done. I'm really enjoying the freshness and also the accuracy behind both of these fragrances. Of course, with the caveat being that Wild Neroli is a little bit on the woodsier side of things, at least in my opinion, whereas this fragrance, Imperial Gold, actually does smell very close to Millésime Imperial, and it has that same bright, effervescent, citrusy opening that you're gonna find in the original. So here you have two fragrances, both of which are inspired by more popular designer and niche fragrances respectively, but I think both of them are really good quality, and for the price, I think it's going to serve you best to purchase these instead of the original if you're on a tight budget. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, certainly these aren't very unique. These are clearly inspired by other fragrances, not just in terms of the smell, but in some cases in terms of the name, in terms of the color of the box and the bottle and the aesthetic. But ultimately, they both smell incredibly pleasant, perfect for the office. You'll probably get a lot of compliments with this one as well. I know Neroli can sometimes be a polarizing note. I personally love it. And I think both of these are very accommodating formulas that people around you will really enjoy. They both smell fresh, clean, very well groomed. In terms of the longevity, you're gonna get about 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours with Imperial Gold. You're gonna get about 5 to 6 hours with this one. The projection, however, of Wild Neroli was a little bit louder than this fragrance. Wild Neroli projected for about an hour and a half. This fragrance projected beyond an arm's length for about 45 minutes to an hour. And they both sat pretty close to the skin, right around the 6 and 7 hour mark respectively, but definitely check it out. Everybody has their own skin chemistry, different pH levels, different, you know, oily skin or dry skin. So you definitely want to try it for yourself and see how it performs on your own canvas, if you will. Versatility, both are great for the hot weather. Both are unisex in my opinion, although people will argue that they lean a little bit masculine. I think both of these will appeal to somebody who's a little bit younger because they lack some of the darker, more earthy and mossy qualities that some of the old school fragrances possess. And I think both of them can be worn casually and formally. In terms of the presentation, I really like the durability of the bottles. I like the construction of the boxes and the shine to this one and the dull kind of, different look to the Wild Neroli counterpart. My final verdict is I think they're solid inspirations of more popular fragrances. And I don't know if that's what the brand was going for, but that's what my nose detects. And, you know, at the end of the day, you got to call a spade, but I do think that they're good fragrances. And I would definitely recommend that you check them out if you have the opportunity to sample them. I'm going to leave links down below to where you can find them online from a credible source, which is where I got my fragrances from. This way you have a trusted seller and you know you're getting the real deal. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel, and give this video a thumbs up if you took something of value from today's review. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.